Students, welcome to our course for ASE, Geography as a school subject. That is what we are busy with. Our certificate or advanced certificate in secondary education. We have to start with our Geography as a school subject. We're going to guide you on content that you need to touch and prepare for your examination, as well as also the most important things mostly that you used to miss out when you have to prepare for your examination. As we said, geography is having three themes: the physical world, economic activity and energy resources, population and the settlement study. So in those three themes, we have different topics, like under physical world, we have topics like plate tectonics, where you have earthquake and the volcanoes, landforms that are associated with them. Then we have things like wind process, marine process, as well as the river process, weather and the erosion there. Then we have weather and the climate, for example, and the natural vegetation. Those are the topics that have to fall under the physical world. So which means that when we have to set the examination, we have to cover everything that is being discussed in those themes. That is where we have to take our questions. So economic activity and the energy resources, that is where you have your agriculture, for example. Energy resources, different types of energy that we have to use on earth. Water resources, as well as topic like environmental at risk. Population, we have topics like migration itself. While the settlement study, that's where you have your urban rent studies, different types of land use that you find under settlement, and the squatter settlement also have to fall there. That is also the theme that have to cover HIV and AIDS. So let's see what you're supposed to prepare for your 2017 August exam. We have to look at wind process, for example. So before you start with your preparation for the wind process that fall under the physical world or physical geography, at least you need to make a table for yourself, whereby you have to list the main topic like the wind, the marine, as well as the river process, so that you can able to know the different forms of transportation, different forms of depositional and the erosional process, as well as the landforms that are associated with them. Also be able to know how they are being formed, because those are most of the questions that we have to look at. On your settlement geography, at least you need to know the types of rural settlement that is being covered there, and the development, as well as the land uses. Take note of the terminologies like the rural-urban bridge. What does it mean? How does it benefit the local people, as well as the economy of the country? The green belt land creation. Those are land, for example, created around towns and the cities. The urban sprawl, the way that the urban land have to now spread and they have to claim land that do not supposed to be used. You need now to look at the positive and the negative impact all those are having on the local people, as well as the economy of the country, and the solution on what we should do so that at least we can preserve those land, so that we can keep them on their form that they are, while our towns and the city have to develop, for example. What should we do? So let us look at employment sectors. Your employment sector have to fall under the theme number 2, that is economic activity. Employment sector, that is where you have your primary sector, your secondary sector, and your tertiary sector. Look at the reason, for example, why the sectors of employment have to change as the country have to develop. And also look at where we have higher people of being employed in each sector, so that you can able to identify that this one is now a developed country or this one is a developing country. Sometimes you will find us asking you to fill in the percentage of the people that are employed in economic sectors. So when we ask you to fill in those percentage, that figure that we present to you is ever out of 100%. Therefore, make sure that you fill it on full. You cannot fill it halfway, because you are leaving something that also needed to be filled out. So industries, different types of industry. For example, the manufacture industry, the high-tech industry, the craft industry. All of those industry, you need to know the positive impact that they have on the local people and the environment. And there's always this question we also like to ask. Briefly describe the impact industry have on local people and environment. We could give such a question, for example, 6 marks. What you have to note down there is the term "and". Now, if I use both local people as well as the environment, so it means that you need to give 3 on local people and 3 on economic development. Tourism attraction, you can also know the reason that attracts tourists, for example, to come in Namibia and the other developed country. The impact it have on the environment. Remember that it's having both negative and the positive impact. You need to know them so that we can see also if we can continue encouraging the investment on tourism, though it happened to be our biggest contributor to our economic development. So another thing is the thing that I also discussed before, on the wind process is marine process. I said you need to know different types of transportation, things like the longshore draft that have to transport material on the shore, the depositional and the erosion process that are associated with their landforms. For example, you look at the erosional process like the headland and the bays, how they are being formed, further process of the headland and the different types of landform that you have to find as erosional of the headland example is happening. The 2 types of waves that we have on the ocean. For example, we only have either a destructive wave or a constructive wave. Constructive wave, you look at the frequency. Actually, just study the differences between the 2 waves so that you can able to know which one is constructive, which one is destructive. And when you have to say destructive waves or constructive waves, what are we referring to? These 2 types of waves, one have to remove the material from the shore and the one have to bring the material on the shore, or they have to build up the beach materials. So you look at the wave frequency. Wave frequency, for example, is a wave per minute that they have to approach the shore. And now when you look at those differences, now you will be able to understand why do we have to term them as this one is constructive and this one is destructive. If, for example, we have a high wave frequency, it means that the high wave frequency, there is the occurrence of waves per minute that is approaching the shore. They are more, and they are now between, for example, some are between 13 to 18, some are between 10 to 16. Those are destructive waves. Waves that cannot give time to the backwatch, for example, to soak or to infiltrate the land so that it can read the material on the land there. So while if you look at the constructive waves, is that one which is wave that have to approach the shore. For example, you have them from 6 to 8, which means that they are low in frequency and low in energy. And this type of waves are those one that gives time to the backwatch to soak the ground and leave the material on the shore or on the beach. That's why we call them that they are constructive waves, because they are building up the beach storm. So we look at the energy in the water supply, for example. When we have to discuss energy, this energy either that can able us to move, energy that can enable us to use our technologies. For example, different types of energy that we have to use so that we can make our livelihood easier. We have different types of resources that have to form energy resources. We have renewable and we have the non-renewable sources of energy. So renewable sources of energy is the sources that can able to replenish, they can able to renew themselves. And the non-renewable are those that once it is used up, it is take a longer time, like a million years, to be formed again. Therefore, when we have to talk about this energy, we must differentiate now which categories are we referring to renewable energy and which categories are falling under the non-renewable sources of energy. Our renewable sources of energy, for example, are formed like, if we have to talk about the hydropower, energy is falling under renewable. The energy that have to be produced using the sun rays, the energy that we have to produce using wind, all those things that they never be finished. As long as the sun have to rise, for example, we have rays that can able to produce such types of energy. The non-renewable energies are things like, when we look at the sources that we have to produce by using uranium, for example, then we look at energy that we have to produce when we have to use either oil or the natural gas. Those are all the non-renewable sources of energy. It needed to be formed before it is being used. So if we use it or misuse it, it means that it will going to run out and we cannot able to use it in our lifetime anymore. So far, what is important is that we need to sustain it so that our future generation can able also to use it. Sometimes now we will ask you a question whereby for you to describe a type of energy that can be produced either using a renewable material or the non-renewable. We have plenty of all example of, even here in Namibia we have a coal power station, the Van Eka coal power station, for example, energy that have to produce by using coal, and that is a good example now of the non-renewable energy. Though they have also their negative impact on the environment as well as on the local people, because most of those non-renewable energy sources, they usually have to create a lot of pollution that can either affect us or affect the environment. Now you also need to know the factors that are influencing the location of different power stations, because energy that we have to produce at a different power station, like a hydropower station. What are the factors that have to influence the location of it? You look at the advantage and the disadvantage, as I said, of producing such electricity. Now you must now run all the different types of power station, their advantage as well as their disadvantage. Problem, as I said, that can cause to the environment and to the local people as well. Then under population geography, for example, we have terminology like migration. We need to know different types of migration. We need to know the pull and the push factors, or in short, we can say reason why that are forcing people to move from a specific area, and the reason that are attracting people to move also to certain areas, and those are what we call the reason for migration. The benefit and the problem of both areas that are receiving the people from another area, and those that are losing people as they go to other areas. Then we also look for population pyramids, whereby we have now to look at or to assess that to what extent now it will help us to plan for the future. Also be able to tell or to say that this one is for a developed country, this one is for a developing country. Why do we have a high death rate on one? Why do we have a low birth rate on the other? Low life expectancy, low working population or higher working population. Look at those reasons when you have to study your population pyramids, for examples. Then we have to look at plate tectonics, that we also said it fall under the physical geography or physical world. The main things that we have there is the earthquake and the volcanoes. Thus natural hazard, as they happen, they also came with the different landforms. Again, they happens because of the plate movement. Know the different types of plate movement, like the conservative, the constructive, the destructive, the corrosion plate boundary, for example, so that you can able to know why earthquake have to happen at a specific plate boundary, or why volcanoes have to happen at a specific plate boundary, or why a certain landform is being formed at a specific plate boundary. So, as I said before, I touched industry already. Type of industry that we would like, or I would like to highlight a bit, is the high technology. Because most of the time, if you place the high-tech industry on examination, you will find that students are losing marks because either they oversee it, they cannot study it, or what that they have to do, I really do not know. So what I want you to do is take care of high-tech industry and read it. Know the location of high-tech industry, where to find them, because this high-tech industry is not in each and every country. Mostly is either on developed country or on newly industrialized country. That's where you have to find those high-tech. See how they differ from other different types of industry, like the craft industry. And again, look at the problem that they have to bring, as well as the benefit that they have to bring to local people, as well as to the environment. So once you read and you understand it with other industries, I believe it will going to be easier for you to tackle it once you meet it in your examination. So I give an example of it, because most of the time where I have to ask the question based on high technology, learners have no idea really of what is going on, because that high technology industry is that industry that have to do with research and development. And for example, their locations, mostly you will find them being located closer to university or closer to airport due to whatever activity that they have to do there. So please look at it, read and understand it, compare its benefit as well as its problem with other industries like the craft industry, those that are having the low technology. So far, students, you are now expected to read extensively and at least make use of your grade 10 and your grade 12 NANCOL booklet and the study guide, as well as the Longman Geography for GSE on the New Wider World by David Wall. The reason why I give you those specific topics is simple, because those topics are having a lot of subtopics. Therefore, if you concentrate on them, you are going to score high for your examination. So you can also use another topics that I did not mention there to help you understand things that are being covered on the topic that I give you. But more specifically, please look at those one. So far, I have to say, good luck with your examination there.